Shiggity, shiggity, schwa. Welcome to Jukebox Zeroes. I got nothing.
Also, welcome to Jukebox Zeroes from the
Welcome to
other
Jukebox
person.
Zeroes, where your idols come to die. I'm Lilz.
And this is the other person, Patrick.
Thank you for not keeping us in suspense.
Yeah, we don't keep secrets around here. We like to we like to say our names right off the bat, so there's no mystery.
Speaking of not secrets, Aimee Hauthaway's here.
That's right.
She's back.
Yay, I'm back.
I usually give that a lot more build-up, but no, I'm not going to do that anymore.
No,
I got the introduction.
you're an all-star. Hey, now you're an all-star.
Yeah.
Officially, right? Is this my hat
Yes.
trick?
I guess it is. 3 episodes.
Yep, I believe. Yeah, at 3 episodes, you officially become a lead singer of Smash Mouth.
My dream realized.
Yes.
I mean, you're not gunning for Scott Kurland's throne anytime soon, but, you know.
It's got some
Whenever
big
you
shit
guys are ready to
to
duke it out.
Yeah, Scott Kurland has very big
you know what
feet,
they say.
Yeah.
I assume.
Average-sized man, but large feet.
Oh, boy.
Excellent swimmer.
I feel like I should apologize for that, like, straight off the bat.
Okay.
And we can do that in the apology section.
I'm sorry, Master.
I can't even remember where I got that I'm sorry clip from, to be perfectly honest. No, wait, this time it was The Hunchback of Notre Dame, the Disney
Ooh,
movie.
that's a good one.
Deep cut.
I really should be keeping track of every clip that I use, but I'm really not.
Was that Tom Hulse saying I'm sorry?
Yep, Tom Hulse
thank you.
apologizing to Tony J. Frollo.
That was a very Tom Hulse laugh.
That was the deep cut joke.
That was the
Okay.
Amadeus laugh. The Amadeus.
Come on, I know the room here. I know you guys will appreciate some good Tom Hulse parody.
Anyway, I'll apologize to Scott for that last thing. I'll apologize to you, the listener, if I'm a little bit low energy, because I got a touch of the insomnia, so I didn't get much sleep. But frankly, I feel like, you know, that's the bare minimum amount of effort this album deserves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she probably didn't sleep very much during the recording of this. She clearly just, she worked so hard.
Also, she loves Coke.
Well, that too. She does.
And the drug coke.
And the drug
You were
coke.
talking about the delicious soft drink, right?
Of course, I don't know anything about cocaine.
The bubbly, syrupy, sweet soft drink you can get at
Yes,
McDonald's.
it really quenches my thirst.
Yeah,
and
especially
no place else.
like no place else. Yeah, you get a burger, you get a little bit of that salty umami in my mouth, and you're like, I need to wash this down with a cool, sweet, syrupy drink with bubbles, big old bubbles, and that's when you reach for that. You reach for that steering wheel and head into your local McDonald's and request from the gentleman or lady, I would like one large Coca-Cola with ice cubes.
That's more of a statement than a request.
I'm really sorry for all of that.
It's okay.
This episode is not brought to you by McDonald's.
Or Coke.
But I feel like... Or Coke. But I feel like after all that thing, they owe us now.
I think something
They got
happened.
the JBZ bump.
Something happened to our
Wait, is that
brains
another Coke
because of
joke?
this album. Oh, bump? Yeah.
I mean, I have an excuse. I don't know why you guys are so bleary.
I haven't slept in like 10 days.
Oh,
Little
no.
naps, but I mainly just sleep on my couch.
I mean, I do nothing but sleep. That's probably not good either.
Yeah, I generally assume that if you're acting crazy, it's because you spent the whole day, like, yelling at a tree or something, Pat.
I mean, you're dangerously close. I didn't yell at a tree, okay? I yelled, and a tree
With
happened
a
to be in
tree.
the way. Laughing at the trees or laughing with the trees?
Just Pat out in the yard in front of, like, a fir going, "The government, am I right?" and taxes and the price of gas. And,
Christmas decorations up too early
Or still up.
or still up?
Avocados, millennials. Yeah, should I just go ahead and get into the album we're doing today?
Yeah, please reel us back into the topic at hand.
For a lot of people who pay close attention to popular music, the aughts are by and large considered something of a nadir for quality in music. This decade marked the arrival of a number of tools, techniques, and trends that many saw as contributing to the cheapening of music on the whole, making it less of an art form and more of a commodity. The aughts saw the increased popularity of autotune as a production technique, the increasing litigiousness and underhandedness of the music industry in the wake of Napster and other file-sharing services, and a decreasing interest in physical media in favor of digital models, which would deliver killing blows to record stores across the country. Not to mention, it was a peak period of sorts for divisive genres of music such as nu metal, snap music, emo, teen pop, metalcore, crunk, and many others.
Wait. Snap music?
You guys don't remember Snap, where it's literally just crunk, except there's, like, finger snapping instead of a snare drum? It's one of the dumbest, most bullshit subgenres of pop rap to have ever existed.
Let's start with crunk.
What is that?
Round the horn. What's our definition of crunk?
Lil Jon
Yeah, that's what I thought.
and people trying
It's
to be
like
Lil
the
Jon.
yelly stuff.
I mean, crunk at least made no bones about the fact that it was deliberately party music.
Yeah, it's crunk, drunk, you getting crunk. Yeah, I thought so. It was like that sort of deliberate party rap from the early 2000s. But snap was like a subgenre of it where you just get the snappy
Yeah,
snaps.
like that one song from Soulja Boy is like one of the biggest hits in the subgenre, if it can be called as such.
But he was like a part of the beat movement back in the 50s. Like that makes sense. Why he
Wait, what?
Wait a minute. Are we talking about what are you going on?
Soulja Boy. Him and
No, Pat. No,
Kerouac.
Pat.
They used to chill.
Pat. Whatever road you're going down, we can't join you.
I'm on that road. I'm just doing poppers and hanging with my bud in the back of my vehicle.
We can't join you down this road for jalapeno poppers.
Are you
Pat.
sure you've slept recently?
I read On the Road, okay, and I remember the chapter where they all had jalapeno poppers.
With Soldier Boy.
With Soulja Boy.
And Lil Jon. Personally, it's hard for me to completely write off the aughts because some of my all-time favorite albums were released during this decade, like Antics by Interpol and Funeral by the Arcade Fire. But then again, it's also the decade where previously revered acts like Metallica, Guns N' Roses, Iron Maiden, Queen, and Chris Cornell released some of their worst-received records of their careers. Here's how I tie this all into the album we're going to be reviewing today. The aughts also signaled the arrival and domination of reality TV shows on terrestrial programming. The music industry itself would have its own horrendous marriage to it with the arrival of American Idol, but that's another story. This brought with it an ever-increasing amount of highly questionable celebrities whose claim to fame were frequently the mere fact of their famousness. Hotel heiress Paris Hilton is one such celebrity, who through a mixture of reality TV, tabloid snafus, and an infamous sex tape, was a reigning fixture of pop culture during the aughts, despite really only being famous at the time for being rich. So, of course, she released an album. The eponymously titled pop record, Paris, was released in 2006 to commercial success and sharply divided reviews, ranging from mild interest to heavy scorn, undoubtedly driven by critics and writers who were sick of seeing her on TV nonstop. And now we're going to listen to it.
We are.
Yeah,
We're
that's
gonna
just
do
about
it.
the right reaction to have to this album.
Oh, 2006. What a great year. What a good old time. Remember being in your early 20s?
I was a teenager
No.
still.
Remember being a teenager
was I.
still?
Yeah.
Or in your early 20s? No. I don't either.
Personally, for me, in listening to this record, I had to try really, really very hard to stick to reviewing the record and not reviewing Paris Hilton. Because I feel like she's such a polarizing figure that it's impossible to judge anything she does without also just sort of judging the character that it's attached to.
Right. I'm I agree with you that I think that we should be taking a objective approach. That's sort of the point of our podcast, I think. It is really hard for me to divorce the subjective factor of the fact that this is Paris Hilton singing these songs. Because she's such a ridiculous public icon. I guess I guess I'll save my thoughts, but we're starting off. That's how I'm feeling.
With some preconceived notions.
This is. I'm just prefacing all of my subsequent critiques with that. That there is definitely going to be some subjective criticism happening, but I'm also going to be a objective music critique this eve, because that's my duty. That's my duty as content creator.
As someone who rolls their R's.
Yes. As somebody who rolls their... Yes.
Okay, not roll. That had no R's in it.
You just didn't hear them. They were so good that you didn't hear them.
You just kind of said yes with a powdered wig on.
Yes.
Okay. Let's bring it back to the music podcast. The 2000s. Yeah. I think that was a good way to sort of contextualize what we're about to dip into here, because in my opinion, once we got into the 2000s, one of the major issues is that we started to get a lot more niche subgenres and a lot less of a monoculture per se. So it's kind of harder to keep track of the trends, I guess. That being said, it also is like, a time period where the three of us were, in our formative years. I think there was some pretty great rock records, kind of like electronic indie records happening over the course of that decade. But yeah, also just a ton of fucking amateur indie garbage because of, for a couple of reasons, digital recording made it a lot easier for people to have it at home and kind of start their own home studios. And like you brought
the aunts kind of were the dawn of that whole period of like interconnectivity, which is probably how you ended up with a lot more niche kind of sounds.
Right. And that will kind of tie into what's happening with this record here. But yeah, with the 2000s, a lot more homes.
Will it though?
I don't know. Or the exact opposite. I don't know. I don't know what I'm getting at here. But yeah, that's kind of part of the problem that I have with it. And then, yeah, just Napster, the way that music was consumed from then on out, where it was just, simultaneously easier. But then because of that, there was a higher volume of shit going in to the tube. But our good friend Stephen Thomas Erlewine did give it 4.5 out of 5 stars. So
that's suspect.
Maybe this will be a good record. Maybe this will be a good record. Who knows?
It's
Who knows,
very,
guys?
very suspect.
Steve, what are you doing?
How much cocaine did you receive for free?
Right, cocaine.
From Mrs. Hilton.
Just to give Paris Hilton just the tiniest absolute, tiny little bit of, credit that I possibly could. She has kind of like reinvented herself over the years after the whole sort of vapid partying image, now that she's actually got like a merchandising empire and stuff like that. I say credit in very big quotation marks, considering that she was already like super, super wealthy from the start. Like, it's hard to, feel too proud for someone who became a billionaire after having been slightly less billionaire.
She was also one of the first household name socialites, I guess.
Yeah.
Before,
right.
Besides Donald Trump, really. Like, I think of him as being like the sort of, when I think of, back in the olden times, in like the 90s and late 80s, when you heard that name, that was just like the epitome of rich asshole guy name. And then as soon as we got into the 2000s, we started getting a lot of new faces on that scene. And Paris Hilton was like, I feel like one of the first of them, from what I recall, her and Nicole Richie, because they had that show in 2003.
Oh, The Simple Life.
The Simple Life. Which was like 3 years
where the whole conceit was just like, wouldn't it be hilarious if these rich people had to do normal people work? All right. Should we go ahead and get to the music now? I feel like we've talked enough about like contextual stuff at this point.
We've talked a bit about brick and a little bit about brack. So let's continue.
Right, let's get to the meat. With track number 1, the first track off the album, this one titled Turn It Up.
It gets real loud, make it even louder. Gotta turn me on, gotta make me holler. Gotta know what to do if you wanna get down. So don't go if you slow. Now you're running out of time. Turn it up, turn it up, turn it up.
Ooh-wee. There's that distinct aughts hip-hop sound, that distinct, dated, repetitious Scott Storch sound that just emphasized lots of club-ready bass at the expense of variation and uniqueness. Before Kanye West showed up to kick the genre in the butt, go, no, you can do this stuff too.
I feel the taste of hip.
It's easy to forget. It's easy to forget that Kanye West was like super revolutionary, considering everything that's happened.
There was a point, yes, where he was on that same music farm as Paris Hilton was that day, for sure. I have the
back to this
distinct
track.
flavor of hypnotic in my mouth when I hear this song.
Ooh,
It feels like I just got launched back right to 2006 with that jam. And what we're getting with this track is right off the bat. We know that it's Paris Hilton.
because we can
is
read.
a reality TV star. Because we can read. We
know that
it's
it's
on the album
got.
cover.
We know it's got Scott Storch's cretinous fingerprints all over it.
Oh, sure. Well, no, because she's also very sexily whispered Scott Storch over like the first for like 1 minute of the song, which that is not
that
a
is
name,
true.
I want to hear whispered in my ear.
Is that true?
Ever.
Did I miss that?
Well, I mean,
Oh yeah, I was listening with headphones
well,
for the full experience.
You got to understand, Pat. She had to do that, otherwise, like, people would have just gone back, just completely different thing in their mind, just going like, "You remember that song where she whispered, Brian Eno,
That's what I hear whenever the wind blows.
Phil Spector, Steve Albini." So this track was a number one hit on the Hot Dance Club.
Sorry, now it just got into Goblin territory.
You've transformed her into Gollum now,
It didn't take
That's what I
much.
do.
or Cobra Commander. I was once a man. So this track was a number one hit on the Hot Dance Club Play charts, and as mentioned, produced by Scott Storch, one of the reigning pop hip-hop producers of the aughts, who, like many big multi-million-dollar hip-hop producers from the aughts and much of the 90s, was kind of a huge douchebag. But, you know, that's just all part of a long and colorful line of just cretin hip-hop producers, like Sean Combs begat Timbaland, Timbaland begat Scott Storch. And that's that class of, like, hard partying,
That
but also just douchebag
Makes
producers.
sense, because it sounds very Timbaland-y. So that makes a lot of sense. So he's getting a lot of influence from that.
Anyway, he's responsible for the majority of the production on the record, so strap in for a lot of that stuff. Just heavy bass with the slightest feather ticklings of strings. Because that's pretty much all Storch knew how to do for much of his biggest hits.
Yeah. This song pissed me off.
Yeah.
For a couple of reasons.
Immediately, I was angry. Just very,
Yeah.
very angry. The lyrics made me extremely uncomfortable, and I am by no means a prude, but I was clutching my pearls. Because it was, like, sonically was very intrusive to me.
Well, a lot of that is just her delivery. It's that ASMR delivery.
And there's, like, sex sounds in the background.
Weirdly like, yeah, it's...
Yeah, I feel like the producers basically decided, okay, Paris Hilton can't sing, so let's try to get her to do the closest approximation of singing without actually trying all that hard, and just run that through the entirety of the album, because that's going to be the easiest for us to manipulate and process.
Like, let's just put a condenser mic as close to your face as possible and just have you whisper sing this whole thing, because and we'll try to auto-tune from there.
And that's pretty much what happens with Paris's, like, that's the whole course of her singing ability for the entirety of the album. She never really extends herself beyond that kind of sub-Britney Spears level baby coo noise.
It's the baby voice. It is the baby voice.
I think that's part of it. That's pretty off-putting. Other than that, if I didn't know who this was, it would just be kind of a standard run-of-the-mill 2006 party hit.
Yes.
If you don't really pay attention to the lyrics, it's like everything is mixed just well enough so like you don't quite notice those atrocious like faux sexy coo vocals
with precision. With
precision, and that almost feels probably calculated. And that's going to tie into my feelings about this entire record. That there was enough money put into this to make some like halfway expensive, decent production calls that would say, okay, let's mix this in such a way that it doesn't sound like completely bonkers.
I wrote in my notes on almost every track, and this is when I had texted you and said, I think we're on the same page, is that I had a terrible time focusing on any of these songs because they would just consistently fade into the background, and I would all of a sudden realize that I was listening to something, and it made me feel like I was like shopping at the mall. Like it's just the vague dance music that's playing at the mall.
I had that as a note too. Like this is very like department store grade kind of pop music in that like it's kind of checking all of the boxes of like a big pop dance club hit of the era. Yeah. But it's also just imminently forgettable as soon as it's done.
Even before it's done, I forgot about it.
Yeah. And there's actually a few tracks on this, further on this album there's a definitive formula that, like pretty much every pop tune was doing between, I feel like 2005 through 2010-ish. I don't know if this was one of them, but there's definitely some other ones. I'll get into that later.
Rolling back to the whole, like, faux baby coo voice, I feel like this is a song that could just as easily pass for, like, a forgettable, like, radio Disney fixture, provided the lyrics were approximately 90% less horny.
Can we please make that 98?
98% less horny. That feels like a t-shirt. I know we never talk about merchandise, Pat, but that feels like a t-shirt. 98% less horny.
For Jukebox Zeroes? Absolutely. No, absolutely. We're a very firm anti-horny fixture here.
Oh yes, we're all Christian
here.
Christian.
Very.
I've opened up a horny gulag here in the Neshoba Valley.
The horny gulag.
Yeah, it's where I send all of the sex pests.
Everyone goes to horny jail.
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen that
gulag,
on Cinemax.
So yeah. Oh, yeah. I like that episode of that show.
That episode of Cinemax.
The episode of Cinemax.
With Jimmy Cromwell.
James Cromwell was in a Cinemax movie.
Respected character actor James Cromwell.
It was a hard year for him.
That man is like my adopted grandpa.
That James Cromwell Powers Booth joint.
Yeah. Listen, it was a tough time for him, okay? He needed the cash. Christ, what are we talking about again? Paris Hilton? I think we should move on to the next track.
Yeah, okay. So, the first track didn't necessarily make me angry like it clearly made you guys angry. This next track, however, fulfilled that perfectly for me. Here's track number 2, titled Fightin' Over Me.
Every time I turn around, the boys fighting over me. Every time I step out the house, they wanna fight over me. Maybe 'cause I'm hot to death and I'm so sexy. Yeah. All the boys, all the silly boys, they wanna fight over me.
Now this is peak Scott Storch right here. That kind of club-centric hip-hop record where any semblance of a song is just drowned out beneath an overabundance of tuneless bass-heavy kick drums. Like, I mean, you could tell from, like, the fidelity of this clip that there is, like, melodies happening. There's, like, piano and violin. I guarantee if you heard this in, like, a car or a club or even another department store, the tune would just be burr, 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 burr.
That's fine. That's totally fine. But
yeah, I mean, if you like that sort of thing, cool.
But
I don't.
You don't, and no one should. But the problem is when you hear those vocals, they really do stick out. And I think this track actually, they stick out the most. Or definitely so far, I'm really angry already.
Well, I mean, the whole track, Paris Hilton is just sort of doing this very sort of like will they, won't they kind of delivery of just like, oh no, you're looking at my butt. How did that happen?
So I feel like it was like an attempt at self-confidence, which I like the idea of like body confidence, and she's building herself up, but it was executed in such a boring way.
That too. Yeah, I mean, she could. Well, that's just it. I think you actually just reminded me of a thought that I was having when I was listening to this song the other day. First of all, like the beat's fine. If there's literally like
the beat's
anyone,
not really fine.
It's like 60% fine. It's like mixed well enough
less horny.
It has the potential to be okay. But tying back to what you were saying, Aimee, I think it actually could have been 98% more horny, and this could have been a more fun song. Because then I was thinking about how like Nicki Minaj, Cardi B, they just have these like magnificently horny songs and like
throbbing songs.
Yeah, and they smack so much better. The music itself is just like way better than whatever we're dealing with here.
Well, I think like, you know, when someone like, you know, Cardi B or Lizzo or something does like a really horny song, you can tell very easily that they're self-aware enough to know, like, you know, they're leaning into it in a comical sort of over-the-top, almost satirical kind of way, while I don't get that from Paris Hilton. And on top of that, like, Paris Hilton has, like, almost no writing credits or even a production credit, like, not even executive. Yes. She does have one writing credit.
See, I thought she did a lot
maybe one or more.
I thought I saw a few of it, and I thought maybe she did lyrics or... So she didn't necessarily pen the lyrics to this.
I don't believe so.
Yeah. Like, the
really
sum total of Paris Hilton's involvement really does feel at times a lot like Paris Hilton wanted to do an album, so she's paying for it.
Yeah.
And, like, these are all contractors, like contractors.
Totally.
You know, Scott Storch and Jadakiss and Fat Joe, who just deliver pretty standard aughts, cars and money and designer brand name verses on here.
Their features were fine. They redeemed the song. They made me not immediately want to turn it off.
Yeah, they were the ones who made it halfway listenable.
Yeah, I will cop to like they were the best part of the song, but I don't think that it really like helped elevate the song all that much in the long run.
I hated the song so much that I remember thinking, why is this song so long? And then I looked at the runtime and it was 4 minutes.
Yeah, that's the longest song on the album.
It felt like 7.
Like, this is a song that's so devoid of a personality of its own. Like, Paris Hilton doesn't even show up for the majority of Fightin' Over Me to begin with. So if you listen to this without context, I doubt you'd be able to, like, connect this to as, like, a Paris track. You'd just assume it was, like, a Jadakiss or Fat Joe solo track featuring Paris Hilton or something like that. If you even identify it as Paris Hilton, for that matter.
I mean, she's not established as a vocal artist, so why would you?
Yeah, just because what passes for her singing voice is just so painfully generic and in that sort of manufactured pop sense. Should we move on to track number 3?
Let's do it.
All right. Here's track number 3. This one I actually do remember from when it came out. This one titled Stars Are Blind.
Even though the gods are crazy, even though the stars are blind, if you show me real love, baby, I'll show you mine. I can make it nice and naughty, make the devil an angel too. Got a heart and soul and body, let's see what this love can do.
Here we have the big single off the record, the one Billboard Hot 100 charting track that technically makes Paris Hilton a one-hit wonder. This reached number 18 on the Billboard charts, but reached number 1 in Hungary, Scotland, Slovakia, and landed top 10 slots in Canada, Germany, Norway, Australia, and the UK, among others.
That tracks.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will say after hearing 2 unimpressive aughts hip-hop pop tracks back-to-back, I wasn't expecting some reggae fusion next, but I kind of welcome that change of pace.
This is a Gwen Stefani sound-alike.
Yeah, it kind of is. Like, the reason for that abrupt shift is because this is one of the few tracks not produced by Scott Storch, but a producer by the name of Fernando Garibay, who also produced hits for Enrique Iglesias, Nicki Minaj, Shakira, and the Pussycat Dolls, and is probably best known for producing the majority of Lady Gaga's Born This Way. So that's pretty neat.
I knew it.
Neat little bit of trivia for you right there.
Yeah, there we go. Is he a snack? Kind of.
Hi, Mike Dunn.
Well, now
I'm
I'm
Mike Dunn.
curious about another track, but let's move on.
So, this was a track I remember briefly hearing about, but not really exploring all that deeply when it came out. I was probably just deep in the paint with, like, post-punk revival tunes by that point in my life. Just the most that I remember reacting to it was seeing it in a news story, and like most of the rest of the country, just going like, Paris Hilton single.
I'm 90% certain that I have heard this, but I'm also 90% certain that I thought it was a Gwen Stefani song.
Now, like so many years later, and I by no means feel like Ms. Hilton needs any overdue plaudits or anything, being that she has a lot of money, but this song is actually pretty catchy.
Yep.
And it's like a standout from the rest of the album, too, like if only because of just the wildly different shift from the more pop-focused rest of the album. It's that kind of poppy white people reggae that, like you said, no doubt generally did best. And there's a kind of atmospheric thing happening in the background that, for lack of a better term, I would describe as sparkly.
Yeah.
It's like a nice change of pace. And even like Hilton's little whisper delivery actually kind of fits it, too.
At the risk of giving it too much credit, it almost touches on Debbie Harry Blondie a little bit, too.
Oh,
yeah.
Tight as high.
That's
Definitely.
the extent I'm gonna celebrate this song though, because it's.
Oh, let's not get it twisted. I don't think this is a great song.
No, I don't either.
If this song had been the first track, I would not have cringed so hard when I started listening. This is super catchy.
It's definitely a lot less offensive, and the song is actually crafted in a way where it doesn't feel as horny. It feels a bit more genuine. The lyrics are
It
like
still feels pretty horny, though.
You're right. I don't know.
You can ignore the horniness because you're not focused on the terrible lyrics because the song is actually somewhat interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of like a fake out a little bit because the production on it implies like a much more romantic ballady kind of song, and you get horny.
Yeah.
I mean, romance
That's what you get.
usually leads there.
As one does.
So here's a little bit of trivia. This song actually got Hilton and Warner Music in some legal trouble. Sparta, Florida Music Group, who were the copyright holders for the famed reggae song Kingston Town, famously covered by UB40, took them to court, alleging that the two songs had the exact same chord progressions. But, I mean, like, judge for yourself. Here's a clip of the UB40 version, the one that people are probably the most familiar with.
I am king, surely I would need a queen and a palace and everything, yeah, and I...
It's like kind of a similarity there, kind
Wow.
of. Like if you transposed it, you could probably sort of get there, but I don't know. I've always been kind of the opinion that chord progression isn't enough of an argument to go on, if only because there's just been so many songs
That's
over the years and only so many chords
That's
to
like a
use.
pretty
Especially
typical
with reggae.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Amy.
Right.
With reggae and particularly like pop reggae and just pop in general, like you're gonna run into a lot of those same, like whatever that was, like root 3, 4, 5 interval. Like that's it's like that's pretty typical, and like there's a different melody, a distinctly different melody happening over it. So I wouldn't fault someone in that way. That's a bit silly.
I will say, though, wouldn't have thought to use a metronome click as a snare drum, so cool. UB40 did a thing.
It's like you don't need a person. You don't have to pay somebody.
That's very true.
You save money.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm all about smart budgeting.
Yeah. I wonder how UB40's drummer felt about that.
I want to play the drums that day. Oh, sorry, he's adult. Wait, what nationality are they?
They're a bunch of white guys.
They're British, I think.
Okay. I wanted to play the drums that day. I did.
Where everyone learned
you can't play the drums. Sorry, mate.
UB40 was formed in Jack the
Rastafari.
Ripper era Whitechapel.
Yes.
Selassie.
I will never do an accent on this show.
You're just a little baby. Oh,
I did an accent on Must Love Movies, and I'm still regretting it, so I'll never, ever do it again.
Oh yeah, you're still dealing with the social media backlash from that offensive accent.
Oh, did we accidentally have someone who's been canceled on the program?
Yeah, sorry.
Pat, we need to vet these things better.
I don't know where I find these people. I don't know.
Sorry.
Oh, boy. We're all going down in flames, really.
Can't wait. What do we got for track 4?
4. Track number 4, in case you thought maybe things would get a little less horny, they don't. Here's track number 4, titled I Want You.
And I think you should know I want you, and I won't let you go. 'Cause I'm the kind of girl who likes to tell you what I want in life. I'll get right up in your face. Won't you like that anyway? I want you, so before you go home.
Hello, not crazy in love.
I need to learn to not laugh directly into the microphone.
So
that's basically what this feels like. It's crazy in love with no rap section and no Beyonce.
And a terrible sample.
Yeah, that's the
that's actually a sample from the movie musical
Frankie
Grease, written by Barry Gibb. So there's a Barry Gibb production credit on this.
Oh right,
which is pretty wild.
From the Grease is the word, the main theme song there.
Yeah.
So this was actually the point where I remembered that I have listened to this album more than once, several years ago. And this is where it all came back to me, that I have actually heard this album before because of the insistence of that hook. That fucking Grease hook. Which is like, I guess, kind of cool. I don't think I needed to hear it over and over and over. It was kind of cool to bring in like every so often, but like she literally made it the hook of the whole song. The
Oh, Grease is starting. Grease is starting. Grease is starting.
Diggity dig dig dag doobly doo, flippity dim dam doobly doodle doo, and you get like way too many instances of flippity doobly doos.
It's called Killing Time.
Well, it's killing.
Sandy.
Danny.
Sandy.
It's the can.
So this one's another. So this one's another non-Storch track. This one produced by a fellow by the name of J.R. Rotem, who hit big pay dirt earlier the same year, producing SOS by Rihanna and Beautiful Girls by Sean Kingston. The interesting thing about those songs, they were huge pop hits in which the melody was based off of samples of some very famous songs, Tainted Love and Stand By Me, respectively, and reimagined to somewhat quirky and off-kilter effect. I bring that up in the hope of that info might shine some light on why I Want You is pretty fucking boring sounding and just sounds like filler.
Yeah, I like SOS though.
And what was the Sean Kingston song? I didn't realize that was sampled.
That's my point. That's my point. SOS and Beautiful Girls did interesting things with the samples that they repeated over and over again. This song most decidedly does not.
So third time was not a charm with this fellow, with Mr. Totem.
Later in the year, he would
Rotem Pole.
Later in the year, he would also have a production credit on Kevin Federline's opus, America Most Hated.
What song?
So that's what we can glean from that, is that J.R. Rotem mostly makes good decisions.
Hey, that's an Aimee Hauthaway episode tie-in.
Yes,
yep,
it is.
Exclusive.
Yeah.
Synergy.
Now, which Christmas Roundup classic did J.R. Totem write?
Oh, the Bob Dylan song.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
that song's great. We got to bring that back. It's almost time for Christmas.
Yeah. What I love the most about the music video for that song is that Bob Dylan is at a raucous party, but he looks like he's already dead.
Oh, yeah.
My
The
sister
party
asked
is
me
his
recently
funeral.
if he was dead.
So, as with every album we do on this podcast, we got to take some time to examine the reviews this album got. Like I mentioned at the top, this record received wildly mixed reviews. Through line amidst the critiques being a begrudging admittance to being surprised that some of the songs were pretty catchy. I was just going to go with the reviews from the wiki page like I often do, to pull some choice quotations, but while doing research for this record, I happened upon an article from Cosmopolitan that did the work for me. So here's a few excerpts from the Cosmopolitan article, 10 Savage Reviews of Paris Hilton's 2006 album. I would also add, passive-aggressive. Vibe magazine said, shockingly, Paris the vocalist is actually listenable. The LA Times said, like cotton candy, the food group she most resembles, what may seem like a mouthful for a moment, is gone in the blink of an eye, leaving a sweet aftertaste and empty calories behind.
Beautiful.
The Guardian said, she sings like a woman who has heard of something called singing, can't be sure of exactly what it might entail, but is fairly certain you do something a bit like this. Those reliably persnickety hipsters at Pitchfork declared, which brings us to the Paris Hilton single Stars Are Blind, which is so lovely and decent I want to stab my eyeballs out. For now, Paris gets a reluctant pass. Perhaps the most overt quote, however, comes from Now magazine, who wrote of the record, though Storch and other heavy hitters do their best to craft reasonable facsimiles of a broad range of today's best dance pop hits, they can't hide the fact that Paris Hilton's a shit singer who can't carry a tune, even when the vocal melody is reproduced note for note in the arrangements. That's a little harsh. I mean, so far this album isn't very good. I don't know if I'd call Paris Hilton singing shit, necessarily. Like, it's pretty much just there to get the job
It's
done.
I mean,
serviceable.
it's treated in such a way that it couldn't possibly be shit because of the amount of money being pumped into it.
Yeah, it's a voice tailor-made for just generating empty, vapid pop calories, and it's really kind of hard to get angrier at it from that for not, doing Beyonce things.
I mean, we also don't know what she sounds like pre-production.
That is also true. Yeah. Then again, every retrospective article I found on the album refers to it as a classic, to which I say, no.
Wait, what?
I mean, yes, be fair, but come the fuck on. No.
A classic?
Oh, I'll have much more to say about that later
Don't
on.
people remember classics? Isn't that what makes them classic?
Oh, yeah. There's an article that I discovered that made me furious that we'll talk about a little later on.
Yes. You know, Revolver,
Right.
Pet Sounds, Paris.
Yep.
The top 3.
The Greta Van Fleet album.
Oh, got to include Greta Van Fleet album on there.
Some say he's still flying through the atmosphere this very day, like a satellite.
Still slicking that
Oh,
down.
look, there he goes. Let's move on to track number 5. This one titled Jealousy.
Jealousy is such an evil thing. To watch someone have jealousy, jealousy, jealousy. Nobody wins when you're
Okay, Scott Storch. I will give you some credit for being able to turn your generic popular rap song production switch long enough to make a generic pop rock song. I gotta wonder how much of that switch 'em up was truly Storch's creative mojo, because the song was co-written by a songwriter by the name of Cara Diaguardi, who has an incredibly rich history of similarly generic and forgettable pop rock hits, having written tracks for Kelly Osbourne, Hilary Duff, Anastasia, and Ashley Simpson. She's also written huge hits for Christina Aguilera, Gwen Stefani, and Kelly Clarkson. So don't worry about her. She's probably doing
That's
fine.
a relief.
By this point, however, she would have been a good 7 years away from what surely would become her crowning career-defining achievement, writing a song for Scott Stapp's second solo album titled "Jesus Was a Rock Star."
Oh,
You mean Scott Stapp
that's a
doesn't
good
write his own songs?
he wrote the
Too late. We can't get into that. Let's get back to Paris Hilton.
he wrote the Dolphin song, right?
Yes.
We're gonna
Marlins.
hire the Dolphins from it down the
Marlins.
bases. I can't run because I got fins, but I'm gonna try anyway. Smack.
So initially, I liked the song for the first few bars. It reminded me of like a '90s girl band. Like for a split second, it sounded like garbage. Like the band, not like literal garbage.
No, I knew what you meant. I feel like this has all kinds of touches of Kelly Clarkson and that specific era of like this girl pop singer can rock, said the press release.
Yeah, I liked this song, and I don't like that I liked it.
Really?
I don't like that I liked it. I think it's unfair that such a song exists. But then the lyrics start and they're just so ludicrous, and it's just like, it's just this fucking silly, out of touch socialite saying, "Yeah, let's see," yeah, and it's like it's just mocking me in my ears.
This is the one that I was alluding to that had a Hilton co-writing credit on here. This was basically just her being like, just like her sort of take that to Nicole Richie, who did something.
She sure did.
I don't know.
They
stopped being friends for a while, but now they're friends.
I'm sure she did. This song actually reminded me, and I had to check the writing credit to see if it was the same person. It doesn't look like it was. A track off of Scream, the Chris Cornell album that we did, climbing up the walls, which was like either it was like the second to last track or third to last track, but it's like it has that like weird, super dry, like acoustic drum sound that just like comes in the choruses for some reason. It's like, it was like a weird production trend within that period, I guess, within that circle of people. So yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting.
Was that also a Cara Diaguardi joint?
It was not. It was Washington Tedder, which I don't know who either of those gents are.
I mean, Tedder's probably referring to John Tedder, the guy from I don't even remember what band it was. They did that song, One Republic.
One Republic, that's what it was. Yeah, that's who it was. So fuck that. None of that happening here. I think this was. I thought that hook was like kind of catchy too. That like opening hook was like kind of cute. I liked that, and it pissed me off that I liked it. And that's just going to be a problem that I have with this album. What I have the whole time is that there are expensive hooks happening. With like no other way to put it, I guess.
I was on board with this song for real. I didn't hate it at all, and then there was like that weird. There were a couple lines of like spoken word, and it took me right out. I was like, no, you know what? I'm all set. I don't need it.
With like better lyrics, that could like actually be a kind of cool song.
Yeah.
I feel like we talk a lot about whether songs age particularly well necessarily, and I feel like this is a song that has, like, imagine, like, you have no context for a song like this. Like, you don't know anything about the whole connection to Nicole Richie and all that sort of stuff. And on its face, it's a song about a partying socialite criticized on the regs for flaunting her wealth and just basically bought her way into celebritydom, and is titled Jealousy. This after, like, such a dramatic shift the image of, like, the ultra-rich and affluent has had in the eyes of the working class. Like, that little bit of context is important, but otherwise this looks like an absolutely abominable song otherwise.
Oh, yeah.
It's, I mean, I know that it's not, but I just felt like pointing that out. And it kind of drives home the notion of just how hard it is to separate art, such as it is, from such a putrid personality and unapologetic public image as Hilton's was at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. That ties into my unenjoyment is, it's hard for me to divorce what her image was like during this time period. Because she's, like, for the most part, been out of the spotlight recently. And like you said, she's kind of redeemed herself somewhat. She's a little bit less of an obnoxious figure. Obviously, there's at this point there are people who are just so much worse now. So much worse. Like, she's not Ben Shapiro. Like, she's like, she's not
That's
Jordan
a
Peterson.
hard comparison.
Interesting poll.
Like, she's right. Like,
That's not fair.
it's not fair, but it's like, these are also fucking, she's not fucking Jordan Peterson. She's not fucking Alex Jones.
Dude, ease up.
She's not, right? Like,
these are not even in the same wheelhouse.
I agree with you. Those
there are
people
worse
are
people
deplorable.
out there.
But you need to scale it back a little bit to make the comparison a little bit more fair.
Right.
Yeah, just like, oh, she's no
Yes.
Kim Kardashian.
Like,
That makes
thank
more
God
sense.
we don't have a Ben Shapiro
But like,
sex
oh,
tape.
Paris Hilton. Oh, Paris Hilton. She's no David Duke.
She's no
That we
Joseph
know of.
Goebbels.
Oh, this
She's
went to
no
a dark
Rodrigo
place.
Duterte, I don't know.
Oh my God.
She's no Bolsonaro.
As far as I know.
No Erdogan. Anyway, we know the names of a lot of terrible,
this is like
terrible
just
people.
a who's who of just scourges.
A hoopsters of scourges.
Yeah. But before we do move on to track number 6, let me just say real quick, since, his name was just in our lips a second ago, Ben Shapiro, hi. You're probably not listening because we're a bunch of, feckless, liberal, progressive cucks. But in case you are listening and are getting ideas, please don't make a pop album. Just because the comparison was
He
there.
already
Don't
thinks he's
do
a
it.
novelist.
Don't do it. He thinks he's a lot of things. He thinks he's more
you
than
took the
4
words
feet
right
tall.
out of my mouth.
Track number 6. Here's track number 6. This one titled Heart.
You are feeling other half of my heartbeat. I'm complete. And you are here the other half of my heartbeat. That's all I need.
Paris Hilton does Cyndi Lauper, I guess.
That's exactly what it is.
This reminded me of early Gaga, also. That's what I was curious about.
A little bit. Like, not even a joke, really, because this song sounds so much like Time After Time. It's uncanny. I mean, maybe because, in addition to Scott Storch, one of the people given a writing credit is a guy by the name of Billy Steinberg, who has his fingerprints over a bunch of major 80s hits, including Like a Virgin by Madonna, Eternal Flame by the Bangles, So Emotional by Whitney Houston, and yes, Cyndi Lauper. Not Time After Time, though. He wrote True Colors.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense, too, though.
But you can see the connection,
definitely.
though, right?
Absolutely.
That, like, he would just, like, he wrote all these 80s songs and then just, like, gets called in because he was recommended and thought, like, the kids still like the 80s, right? They
I
like
don't know.
prom They like prom songs?
That's my favorite genre.
Yeah. So, yeah, the vocals are, like, mixed just a little bit too loud, but, like, other than that, this track was, like, fine and, like, inoffensive. And probably wouldn't bother me if I were drunk enough.
There's more spoken word in this song, and the line that is spoken made me...
Is it horny?
So horny. I hated it. The line is, "My heart beats like a drum when I hear you come." And... is it entendre?
You can't say
Is
that
it
on
entendre,
TV.
or is she literally saying that? Is she literally saying that her heartbeat quickens when the person in question is orgasming? And if so, why?
Because,
Well, I mean, I think the implication is that she's thought a lot about this.
it's probably
her-
it's a lot of cocaine, which she's been... I assume she's been, like, regularly consuming since she was, like, probably, like, 11 or 12. And at this point, she's, what, like, 26, 27?
At the recording of this album? Was she that old?
Maybe not, actually. What was she born in, like, 81, 80? I know she's like a year or
81
two
so.
older than me. So, let's see. In 2006, I was 20.
Oh, okay, so close.
Yeah, so she was probably, like, 20, 25 or something.
So that's a good decade and a half.
Oh, yeah.
Of
So that's a lot of cocaine.
This is speculation.
Yeah.
Do you think Paris Hilton is one of those celebrities that, like, gets their blood changed?
Yes.
Yeah. I think she got it changed a few times during these sessions.
I would not be surprised with all this talk of cocaine and party drugs and
Yeah,
stuff.
she's got to get that Richards infusion.
Yeah, the Richards infusion. The Richardson. So she called up Keith Richards' doctor and, like, had her, had him on, or maybe it's her, I don't know.
You don't know.
On retainer during the recording sessions, just like, I don't know, like every 6 weeks, she's like, "Oh my God, a blood transfusion would be, like, so hot right now." Like, that's how she asks.
My
That's
blood
how
is
she,
bad.
My blood is...
Can we take a break? My blood etches.
My skin is just being, like, such a bitch right now. Being such a jealous bitch.
God, my artery is so shut eye.
Just jealous.
I've pretty much said all that I need to say about this track, and I really don't think I've said anything beyond that it sounds like prom pop, just because this is another one that's just so imminently forgettable and by the book.
Like, the weird thing is, I brought this up before, I have heard this, I think, like, more than a few times, and I just blocked it out of my memory, because this just, like, came back to me. The hook of this song just, like, immediately came back to me, and there's no way I could have heard this song since, like, at least 2008, because I was dating someone at the time who really liked to put on obnoxious pop albums, like, just to, like, piss me off, for that sole purpose.
They sound like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So you were,
exactly.
like, waterboarded with Paris Hilton.
So, yeah, Ashley Simpson's third album, the one that she did with.
Ooh,
I think she did that one with Timbaland. Was it Timbaland or I don't know, one of those.
Third?
One of those guys. I think it actually was Timbaland. So yeah, she put that one on a lot, but then I guess, I don't remember this, but I guess she put this one on a lot because starting from like either this song or the track before, I recognized every fucking song moving forward. Like, it just came back to me, like, it just flooded back to me like I had just heard it yesterday, and I there's no way I've heard this since at least like 2008, 2009.
I think we're looking at like a Clockwork Orange scenario.
I don't know. I think I heard this like more than 10 to 20 to 30 times, and I just like completely blocked it out.
Do you want to talk about that?
I think
that seems really traumatic.
I think we have to talk about it off air, or else this is going to turn into another very special episode of Jukebox Zeroes.
Oh man, you might have to get your blood changed. Your blood's no good now.
A blood transfusion would feel like so hot right now. That's how she asks for
so
things.
hot.
She just says that this thing would be really hot right now. Paris, I need you to sign this form. I can't do anything until you sign this release form. Yeah, me signing that release form would be like totally hot right now. Me giving power of attorney would be like totally hot right now. No, we need you to actually give power of attorney so we can move. Yeah, power of attorney would be like super hot. No, Paris, come on.
Remember when she tried to copyright that phrase?
Power of attorney.
Not power of attorney. No, I mean her catchphrase. That's hot. That would have been a bit more interesting if that was her catchphrase the whole time.
That's power of attorney.
Paris, this is Scott Storch. He's going to be the one producing your album. Pavatana.
Paris, I don't think you know what that means.
What?
No, just the power of attorney. Attorneys are like really powerful. It's so hot. No, I don't think you know what that means. No, it's like Better Call Saul. He's like really hot. Is Bob Odenkirk? Is he?
Yes, Bob Odenkirk.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm on so much cocaine.
I don't think you understand what that means, Paris. Can we got Popeyes?
You know what hot means anymore?
What? Sorry, you cut out. What'd you say?
I said, do you even know what hot means anymore?
Hot. Like a hot dog?
Let's move on to track 7.
Sure. Yes.
We've clearly overexerted this well. The well's dry.
We're on a mean streak now. Let's just plow through the rest of these tracks.
Did you say meat
just straight
streak?
bangers.
Track number 7. This one titled "Nothing in the." Dr. Luke.
Ugh.
Cool. I'm so thrilled for that. And it's a track that has backing vocals by Kesha on it. That's super.
No.
Is that true?
Don't we all wish we had more of that? Just pop tracks by accused abusers and groomers. That's what we need right now more than anything. And he's still producing big hits for Doja Cat and Kim Petras and plenty more to this day because cancel culture works.
Well, okay. Let's get a little bit of context here because Dr. Luke, he's the asshole who was like who produced a bunch of Kesha shit. Yeah,
he's the producer who Kesha accused of committing sexual abuse at her and grooming and all sorts of stuff, and he won his fucking lawsuit.
Yeah. Piece of shit.
Because justice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we see it quite a bit here in this fucking dipshit country. And what are like some of his? Not that I want to celebrate this guy, but just so like I know, like what are some of his bigger hits besides this one?
I couldn't say off the top of my head, but he's got his he's like produced a lot of like really big hits and worked with a lot of big names. If you guys want to look that up, I'll like vamp for a little bit.
That's fine. I don't need to.
All right, so I'm not going to spend the entirety of this review just harping on Dr. fucking Luke being on this record. So instead, I'll just give it shit for just being just another generally uninteresting song. This is just exactly the kind of peppy pop song that could really just be the background for a Carnival Cruise Line commercial.
Oh, I know.
And not much else.
Yeah, it's another mall song. It's like an Aeropostale song.
Yeah. The one nice thing that this song did, because like before, like in the before times, before we were all quarantined, me and Seuss would regularly make trips to Torrid because their clothes fucking rule.
Yes, I love Torrid clothing.
And
they're a good store.
Their soundtrack was usually this kind of stuff. Not this song specifically, but this kind of, vapid generic dance pop, which, you don't go to those for the clothing. But listening to that, I just felt like I was at Torrid again.
Getting a great deal on clearance.
For one brief split second, like I thought I was looking at, some nice kicky tights. Then I remembered Dr. fucking Luke is on this, so God.
I'm not buying anything.
Never 21, more like.
Oh, that's kind of dark.
Yeah.
I am going to have some stern words to say at the Sarku.
So this is actually
mall jokes.
I was going to bring this up, or I kind of alluded to this earlier in the show. This is the song where I don't know if like I've heard this 1,000 times or if the very formula of it just felt so familiar to me. The choruses do this thing that I can only describe it. I first thing that comes to mind is "Let It Go" from the fucking Frozen soundtrack. There's like this sort of da 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 melody, da 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 da. Okay. Da 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 da, and then a new melody, da 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 da, for like 2 bars, and then we go back to that original melody for the second 2 bars, and it gives you a complete 8.
They took very big cues, as I understand, from Vanilla Ice's plagiarism trial.
Could you put a beat over that and send it to me?
Da 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 instead of ba 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 ba. Totally different. So if this is a nitpicky observation, feel free to point this out to me, but I hate the sound of the snare drum in this track. Like, the album came out around 2006, so we're still quite deep into, like, Loudness Wars territory. And not only does this song sound, like, way more thickly produced than the rest of the record, but the snare is just way, way up further in the mix than any other instrument besides Paris's vocals. Which, from what I understand, that's kind of a Dr. Luke signature technique, to which I say, cool. So cool.
My name is Dr. Luke, and, what I do here on the DAW screen is when I get the snare track here, and I take the volume and then I push it up. I just go up. What are you saying? Please stop talking, Dr. Luke. What are you saying?
What is this fucking Don DeMello ass character you're pulling out?
I don't know. I know nothing about this gentleman.
I love the accents and characters that Patrick attributes to people that he has no idea about because they're so wonderful and cartoonish, and so I'm probably assuming so far-fetched from what the person is actually like that he could never even get in trouble for lampooning somebody because you could never link it to that person.
My name is Dr. Luke, and I will produce your song from all the way across the room.
The part of Dr. Luke tonight will be portrayed by Daniel Day-Lewis, apparently.
Yes.
Is there anything he can't do?
Yes.
Keep his hands to himself, clearly.
Dr. Luke or Daniel Day-Lewis?
Dr. Luke, I'm not here to besmirch Daniel Day-Lewis.
That's not our job.
If you were curious, Don DeMello is an Andy Daly character who, not unlike that first voice Patrick was doing, he's like an elderly theater director who directs the Rockettes, and he kind of speaks in this tone of voice. He's always talking about it as the part when the girls come out. I make the call from the stage and bring out the girls.
Oh, God.
I'm sorry for doing that, but it's an incredibly funny character all the same.
Is
all the hair on the back of my neck just stood up.
So let's lighten the subject and talk about the sex tape.
Finally.
I would just like to take this opportunity right now to say the only point that I want to make regarding the infamous sex tape, because, like, even though that's arguably what put Paris Hilton on the map in the first place before the reality show, I don't want to comment on it too heavily because we're not fucking drive time shock jocks or whatever.
We're not here to be like, oh yeah, I like want me too. Toilet flush.
The one thing I will say in relation to it and this record, the majority of the lyrics on this record, as we mentioned earlier, are not credited to Paris Hilton herself. That's just a fact of the record. It's mostly professional ringers.
Interesting. See, I didn't
Also
know that.
important-
I thought it was her writing most of the lyrics. So that was only like on a few tracks that she actually wrote lyrics.
Yeah, she has writing credits on a few tracks, but we don't really truly know what the extent of that was, just because of how many professional songwriters were brought in.
Like, did you know that, you can actually, take a line and you can repeat it, and that's what's called the refrain, Mrs. Hilton.
Oh, they taught her that, because there is some serious repetition in this album.
Good. I mean, maybe they went a little overboard with that particular instruction.
And that part of the album is called the refrain, as in, Paris, I wish you would refrain from doing cocaine when we're trying to record. Power of attorney.
But this particular cocaine is, really hot right now.
Also important, much of the tracks on this record, as we're keenly aware, feature very horny lyrics. Like, Fighting Over Me in particular is particularly, as we mentioned, is just oh, you men arguing over who gets to touch my butt. It's just spread really thickly. Also an important observation. Production on this record started in 2005, a mere 2 years apart from when the sex tape came out. And there's, an implication, as we mentioned, that the lyrical horniness was largely, if there was any sort of instance that, Paris Hilton was really leaning into it to play around with it, that's kind of undercut by the fact that she didn't really write most of the songs, because otherwise that really just feels like the songwriters going, well, that's the summation of her character, we'd better write the music as such. And that just feels kind of shitty.
That's
it's
kind
a
of
little gross.
I mean, it's not like we were expecting Paris Hilton to write her own Silent all these years or something, but it's just really shitty.
I love that song.
Oh my God.
I mean, at the same time, you got to imagine she had some veto power, and this is what happened. So she did not sort of exert any of it.
Can I tell you my theory?
I don't know. Yeah, go for it.
I have this theory that Paris Hilton is incredibly intelligent and is very business minded, and created this people want to fuck me character because she knew that it was going to make money, and that in real life she is nothing like this.
She's not dumb. No, I'm with you on that. She's her and Taylor Swift in some capacities and Madonna. They're excellent businesswomen. She did know what she was doing, and she had the money and connections to seek out the right people to make a record that wouldn't embarrass her, say,
and to get a show, and when she became a professional DJ.
Sure. Yeah, and I don't know why she wanted to make an album. I don't when I think of Paris Hilton, I don't think of someone having a song in their heart, per se. But, like, she obviously wanted to do it for some reason. It
was a trend at that time.
She cared enough about the art of making music that she wanted to be a part of it. Like, that part, that's what really kind of confounds me about all of this, is that not every socialite necessarily wants to be a musician. Not everyone necessarily gives a shit about being a musician. Being a socialite might be enough. Just being put on camera to, like, say whatever fucking bullshit you want, like, is enough for it. And, like, by the 2000s, that was enough. That was entertaining enough for people. You didn't need to be a double, triple threat. So, like, why did she need to go into music? Like, it just seems like such a kind of an old-fashioned, like, oh, this is the this is the logical next step. Like, of course I go and make an album.
It's just another avenue to make money.
It is.
I don't think she didn't care about being, like, a respected artist.
Yeah.
She just knew that people were going to buy her record because her name and her face were on it.
I legit feel like it all just sort of came down to because she wanted to. Like, she didn't have, like, as you mentioned, she didn't have, like, a song in her heart. She didn't have, you know, some deep poetic stuff that needed to come out. She just wanted to have an album that she was on, I think, more than anything. And it also kind of, you know, explains why, like, she never bothered to record any other albums after that.
Like, she must have given a shit enough about...
Because, like, I'm sure she was, like, she's definitely business savvy and business focused now, but... You know, she was in her 20s when she put this out, so it stands to reason that she would have looked that, like, she, like anyone in their 20s, would have just been like, I want to be a musician, I want a record.
I guess so.
And so she just did it. She had the money for it, so she did it.
I think she knew what she was doing the whole time. I think she knew that it would sell.
What do we got next on this fucking 4.5 out of 5 stars from Mr. Stewart?
We still have 4 tracks.
Yeah. I'll just close my thoughts on that last track just by saying I really fucking hate Dr. Luke.
Yeah, he fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Just to reiterate.
He can,
I think that's a sentiment held by all of us.
Yeah, he gets the guillotine.
All right. Moving on to track number 8. This one is titled Screwed.
This I'm already screwed. Here's a message to you. My heart's wide open. I'm just not getting through to the lover in you. But I'm still hoping tonight you're gonna turn down the lights.
In a lot of reviews for this album, this track, penned and produced by Cara DiGuardi, Greg Wells, and Rob Cavallo, was frequently pointed to as a highlight of the record. And there's a good reason for that, because this is a fucking Kelly Clarkson track.
Yes!
By which I don't mean it's a cover of a Kelly Clarkson track or that it was intended for Clarkson and ended up with Hilton instead. I mean, this song has no identity of its own beyond sounding like a Kelly Clarkson track.
Yeah, this could be on the same album as Since You've Been Gone.
It's the same formula
Totally.
again as the whatever that other song was. It's doing the same thing where the chorus
Nothing
has
in This World.
Nothing in this world. Yeah, the chorus does that same thing where it's a melody, introduces a new melody, and then goes back to the first melody. It's that fucking Let It Go from Frozen formula. It's the same shit.
I feel like that's kind of a recurring theme for the entire second half of the record.
It's a very, like, 2000s pop thing.
I mean, not to say that, like, the first half was, like, super experimental or anything like that, but at least it was a little more varied in its sound than, you know, just this 1-2 punch of Nothing in This World, Screwed, and some other tracks that are coming up.
These lyrics really bother me.
That was foreboding.
Lyrics really bother me
But
on this
I don't want to
one.
give the game away.
Because it's like, the lyrics are kind of bothersome because it's, I don't know. Just basically just saying, do whatever you want to me because I don't have anything to live for anyway because I'm dead inside.
Was this the song where like there's like that spoken bridge where Paris just kind of goes like, "I'm sorry I made you hot, so go take a cold shower"?
No, that one is.
No, that was "Turn You On," I think.
Yeah, that
wasn't
was
it?
"Turn You On." That's to be discussed.
Ooh,
I'm
boy.
sorry I made you so hot. That was not hot of me.
Lyrically, I thought that this song was the most interesting.
Oh yeah.
Well, because it didn't rely on repeated phrases, other than the chorus, obviously, but it actually had some feeling behind it. I was kind of following along with the lyrics, and it didn't seem as hollow.
I just wish it wasn't
as
her.
the other songs.
I just wish it wasn't her.
I mean, I kind of catch what you're saying, and that kind of makes a lot of sense because, in retrospect, like none of these songs are really all that interesting necessarily, but the ones that came closest to being interesting, I feel like, were mostly the ones that Cara Diaguardi had like songwriting credits on. So she clearly knows her shit.
Yeah. And it tracks with you saying it's a Kelly Clarkson song because she is always tugging on the heartstrings.
Yeah, and I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm
totally.
sure LaGuardia. What the fuck is her name?
Cara Diaguardi.
I'm sure she received a check, and I'm sure that it cleared with no issue. I'm sure that was not a problem.
This
Patrick, you're getting really sassy.
This is just like, a couple days ago when Ennio Morricone died and you called him the Macaroni Man.
Pouring of the Macaroni Man.
Are you just taking like an HOV lane to senility?
Of course.
The good, the bad, and the ugly. Once upon a time in America, a fistful of dollars. Macaroni Man.
Macaroni Man.
The good, the bad, and the horny.
The good, the bad, and the macaroni.
So this song actually has its own sort of turbulent legal history behind it. When Hilton started working on Paris, the album, she was pitched Screwed as a song by Diaguardi and Wells as far back as 2004, leading Hilton to declare in interviews that it would be the first single off the record. The only problem is that Haley Duff, sister of Hilary Duff, would also claim in interviews that the song was intended to be recorded by her as the first single for her debut album. A complicated legal battle soon followed after a lo-fi recording of Hilton's version of the track leaked to an Orlando radio station. Ultimately, however, Hilton would record the version that appears here in spite of the lawsuit, while Duff ended up dropped from her record label and canceling her debut entirely, which allowed Hilton to keep the song.
That sucks.
Yeah, so we just straight up never got a Haley Duff album, which, I don't know. I don't know Haley Duff. Maybe it would have been good.
Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah, that's pretty much the extent that but I mean, like, I don't know how
I
she
like the Duff
sounds. Like,
sisters.
maybe it could have been good.
I have a soft spot for the Duff sisters.
Really?
I don't know. They're fine. Whatever. Hilary Duff. She's doing the HelloFresh thing now. I show up on
Is
my.
she?
She shows up on my Facebook ads. Yeah, she looks great.
That's an interesting career path.
I mean,
That's kind of neat.
I do HelloFresh.
I didn't know you
now.
were like a secret duffer.
Kind of. Yeah. I mean, I don't give a shit about her music or her acting career. I don't know.
I just really love Lizzie McGuire.
I just like that she's doing all right. She's getting the HelloFresh meal every week and cooking those pineapple luau teriyaki bowls, which I had one tonight. It was really delicious. We get HelloFresh.
That sounds
Yeah,
delicious.
it's really nice.
I love teriyaki.
Don't do an ad for HelloFresh unless you're getting paid.
Oh shit, that's right. We are a podcast, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't even have like a discount code.
You can try. JBZ80 to get $80 off.
Anything.
Let's see if it works.
Wait a minute.
APZ 80.
That gets you like several months for free.
No, there's an $80 code for office ladies.
Okay. I guess I just don't.
It's a good podcast.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Where am I?
Sorry, office ladies. Come on the show sometime, and we can review Love
Yes,
Beach.
come review Love Beach with us.
Come on, Jenna Fisher.
One nice thing I'll say about this song is it's at least more vocally explorative with a little more range to it in the chorus and stuff. I'm not sure if those parts are actually sung by Hilton, however, just based on pattern recognition. Because, like, as we mentioned, for the entirety of the album, Paris has really never once strayed from that whisper coo. So why stretch it up now, like 8 tracks in? I'm pretty sure that was Cara Diaguardi's vocals gained up a bit singing the chorus.
Really?
Maybe, I don't know. That's just my guess. I wasn't there.
I was.
Then why are we even talking about this? If none of us were there.
None of us were there. We didn't even know if the album really happened. You know, object permanence. We don't have it.
I mean, universe willing, this was all a fever dream.
Listen, we don't actually have any way to prove that what we listened to, we actually listened to.
That's very true. Are you a figment of my imagination, or am I a figment of your imagination? And if so, am I sentient?
Lil's thought of us both right now in Paris Hilton.
Well, thank you.
If we never listened to this album, where did I get all these audio clips from? Wait a minute. These aren't audio clips. They're sparrows.
Oh, and there they go.
And this isn't a computer. It's a hat. Do I just have a hat full of sparrows this whole time? Am I talking to sparrows? Am I sparrows? And we just end the podcast there.
Bye, Lilz.
I'm hitting stop. Good night, everybody.
Audio medium. You don't know what's happening.
No. It's for the best.
Let's move on to track number 9. Track number 9, this one titled Not Leaving Without You.
Don't ask me for my number, 'cause my number's undercover. Don't tell me that you're going, I just got here and I'm hoping I'm not leaving without you. I'm not leaving without you. So stop looking at the clock, 'cause baby, time's on my side.
Hello, not Delight.
Yes.
Like, this didn't even occur to me until, like, re-listening to that clip. This is such a D-Light knockoff, it's not even funny.
Yeah, groove is in the
Except
heart.
D-Light actually had, like, real, P-Funk people playing on their songs and stuff, and I don't imagine there were any real instruments on this track whatsoever.
So it looks like this is...
I think you're probably right.
This is another DeGuardia and Wells...
Diaguardi.
DeGuardia.
Why do you keep trying to say LaGuardia?
He has trouble with vowels.
I have trouble with reading.
But
And
yes, you're right.
comprehension.
This is another Diaguardi and Wells track. Another rare one that gives Hilton a writing credit too. But, like, do you honestly think you'd be able to tell a difference at this point?
No.
Because, like, Hilton's done such a good job of just, like, establishing herself as a, as a songwriter with an aesthetic up to this point.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We're really getting an idea of a true revolutionary identity now from Paris Hilton.
I will say there's, like, a shuffly guitar line at the beginning that gets sampled that sounds pretty neat. Maybe not so much after it makes up the entirety of the bass line of the song, though, with just no variation or alternation in rhythm.
Yeah, this was another one of those, like, I could not focus on this song because there was absolutely nothing holding my attention.
Stupid. Big stupid-doopty-doos.
So many tracks in, I have an interesting theory about Paris Hilton's singing voice. Like, this many tracks in, like, this occurred to me of what listening to Paris Hilton's vocals reminds me of. Are you guys familiar with a piece of software called Vocaloid?
Fill me in.
Yeah.
For those that aren't aware, Vocaloid is like a combination between Melodyne, a manual pitch shifting software, and a text-to-speech program.
Okay, interesting.
Basically, you enter in words that you want a computer-generated voice to reproduce set to a specific tempo and program a melody with it.
Oh.
Now, I say computer-generated and not robotic because the technology on Vocaloid voice programs has advanced creepily far since its creation to, like, deep fake degrees.
Uncanny.
So that people could use it to impersonate somebody?
We're getting very close to that.
I mean, maybe not necessarily to that extent, but, like, they could use it to basically create an artificial vocalist for a song.
We're getting
Like,
very close
for
to
all
doing
intents
the
and purposes, this
recreations,
should be like the absolute nadir to like purist songwriting, but it commands battalions of fans. Like, there are producers in Japan that have used the program to generate virtual anime-faced pop stars with it that sell millions and just have huge hologram concerts in the before times. Like, the most famous one of them all, Hatsune Miku, has even performed on Letterman.
What?
Yep.
Wow.
Welcome to the
with
future, baby.
holograms.
This is legitimately scary to me.
Yeah. And Dave Letterman looked so confused.
Poor David. Because
Yeah,
I
he-
would be confused and scared as well.
I think it was on Jay Leno.
Nah.
She's like, we got
Fuck
out right
Jay
here.
Leno.
Have a good time. Yeah.
They can suck an
That's
egg.
Jay Leno.
I was on Jay Leno. That's what I said.
You
Oh.
hear about this? You hear about this?
You got it, Jay.
The guy is a robot.
Then he drives away in an antique fire truck. Now, I bring all this up. I don't mean to suggest that this means Paris Hilton didn't perform any of her own vocals on the album. I'm sure she did. Just that they sound like that level of pristine bordering on uncanny valley. And there's not much change up to that sound either, which, you know, just sort of further gives fuel to my point from earlier that the producers that worked on this record probably did that as a deliberate production choice. Like, they just completely understood what they were working with there, and, like, they're not trying to produce anything past that level. It's definitely debatable whether that was a good thing or not, but it's definitely better than, like, overshooting an artist's capability. It's just working with what you've got as opposed to what you want it to be. I mean, that still doesn't mean the album's all that good, but partial credit?
Yeah, I guess if we're going to do that, sure. I'm not going to award anything to anybody.
I don't think you're in the position to.
I'm not. Ever since I was stripped of that honor in 2015, because
I remember that ceremony. I always thought it was weird because it was like an unaward ceremony.
well, what happened was I accidentally awarded myself an unaward, and because of that, I was removed from the judges panel.
It wasn't so much a award ceremony as it was an award revocation.
Yeah, it was very strange.
It was beautiful, though.
It was a very delicate and elegant transition into being stripped of that honor. And it was actually they did a slow motion video afterwards. And it was pretty touching. It was pretty touching. Maybe
Yeah, everyone was touched.
every single person. And
You gingerly carried the award on a nice velvet pillow to a guy in a tuxedo, passed it off to him, and then he kicked you in the butt and you fell down some stairs, and everyone applauded.
everyone applauded.
I cried. It was that
I
moving.
did too.
And a brass band played a brass band song.
76 trombones.
Playing
Yeah, 76
playing
trombones
Deacon
from the
Blues.
Music
Playing
Man.
Deacon Blues. Learn to work the saxophone. I play just what I feel.
Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Da-da-da. Hey, do you guys remember Paris Hilton?
I don't. Did she have an album? Did she ever put out?
Yes, we did.
Did she
and
ever put out that
believe
album?
it or not, we're in the middle of it.
I remember her talking about it back in
Well,
2004.
it's not the middle.
Oh, yeah, we're almost at the
Oh,
end.
she actually put it.
That
put
makes-
it out.
That makes me feel better, actually.
Yeah, she put it out. Good for her.
Wait, she actually put out this album. Dude, we got to do it. We got to do it for this show. We got to do it for Jukebox.
Can we
Zeroes.
please move on?
Yeah. Let's move on.
There's nothing to this bit, Pat. Let's move on.
It's nothing.
That's what you think.
It's got no legs.
Track number 10. Here's track 10 titled Turn You On.
Don't care who's watching me. I'll do just what I want. Just 'cause I dance with you, don't mean you're getting some. Don't get excited, baby, 'cause I might turn you on. Turn you on, turn you out. Give something right about. All the boys are looking.
And here we have the Lil Jon track. Except it's Scott Storch doing a very pale Lil Jon impression, and it's another
Britney
club
Spears
pop
song.
song. Yeah, pretty
We
much.
get,
The lyrics have not gotten any less horny or less about partying, or it's another one I really have so little to say
We have
about.
sexy dogs because she does like these little yips.
Yeah, she does.
And
Miss those.
yeah,
And like as we alluded to earlier, this is the one where she apologizes and tells you to go take a cold shower.
I needed a cold shower, but for a different reason.
I took a warm one.
It was to remind me that I was, in fact, alive, because I felt that I had passed away.
So I'm keeping my thoughts on this short because I want to turn my attention to an article that made me seethe upon discovering it just from reading the title alone. This is from Paper Magazine, and it bears the title, Paris Hilton's debut album was a beacon of pop culture.
What?
I mean, not wrong. It was a thing of pop culture.
A beacon?
Well, yeah, it was certainly a thing that existed in pop culture, that's for sure.
Really, really tiny one.
It's a retrospective article that seeks not just to defend Hilton's album, but literally refers to it as a flawless debut, and takes the perspective that Paris was a genuine work of art for lampshading tropes of celebrity, sex, and social hierarchy, except I really don't think it does. It does it all just completely straight. There's no irony to be had from unflinchingly playing into these tropes of the day, unless you're just one of those insufferable post-irony types that insists they're being ironic about something while doing it completely with a straight face about it. Like, you know, the same argument that douchebag white stand-up comedians use to justify continue telling racist jokes.
Oh, I'm not allowed to joke?
Yes, that exact. It's not fucking turning it on its face if you're reveling in it without making a point. That's not how satire works.
No.
No, and there's no satire happening here. It's just blatantly obvious to me that it's someone with way too much money being able to waste a bunch of money on a vanity project for herself. There's no agenda. There's no MO of subverting the whatever image she has. Like there's none of that happening here.
The big subversive satire is, oh, look at Paris Hilton, she's partying. You get it?
No, I already knew that.
Yeah, but nope. Paper Magazine is just too focused on being an apologist for what's at best a somewhat decent pop record, interminably locked into the time period it came from, even suggesting that it made Lady Gaga possible.
No.
That's foolish.
Yeah, this is the exact same logic that went into that infuriating Pop Dust article from a while back that defended Scream from the Chris Cornell episode a long while back.
That's so weird that you brought that record up, Patrick.
I know.
Patrick is seething, I can totally tell.
There was a lot of similar feelings listening to this album and listening to Scream for some reason. Probably because it's like, it's the same time period. It's Scott Storch and Timbaland who obviously have, a lot of similar sounds.
Right. And Jim Beans, can't forget Jim Beans.
Oh, Jimmy Beans.
Beans.
Jim Schultz will never let us forget Jim Beans.
Beans.
But you get what I mean, right? Why this made me so angry? Because it's just more of that putrid poptimism trend that's basically taken over mainstream music writing nowadays.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm glad that all the old guard music reviewers are going away so we don't have to read wall-to-wall 5-star reviews of Bob Dylan's 26th record anymore. But this class of writer that's emerged in rockism's wake that prizes and awards artistic integrity to just deliberate shallowness and just values contrivance and assigns plaudits for things like for perceived self-awareness, they're just as awful as, fucking Robert Christgau and that sort of ilk.
I'm right there with you, Lilz.
Not every pop album is culturally significant.
No.
That's not how pop music fucking
No,
works. Some things are flash in the pan and destined to only be remembered as artifacts from the decades they came from.
The poptimism thing is such a blatant reaction to rockism, because what happened was, all right, rockism really started with the Beatles, probably. The Beatles, of course,
Cream magazine,
very early on in the press,
Lester Bangs, that sort of
very
stuff.
early on in the press, the Beatles were considered a tween bubblegum act, and a lot of electronic music with electronic, a lot of music with electric guitar that wasn't like folk music a la Bob Dylan was considered bubblegum shit. They didn't get any respect until they put out these records like Sgt. Pepper's and Revolver and Abbey Road, and then that became the point where rockism was the pillar of criticism of all music somehow, pop, rock, what have you, and then that of course was problematic for a lot of reasons. So. And it was problematic and very, very white male focused, very focused on the accomplishments of what the white male was doing in music within the context of popular music.
That's what kind of spurred on that whole sort of anti-disco movement in the 70s, even though that was one of the most progressive genres out there in terms of how many kinds of people could find success in it.
And disco, what was in a lot of ways incorporated. It was a popular iteration of a sort of amalgamation of different world music kind of starting to creep in world and non-white music starting to creep into pop music, and basically pop music has started to become increasingly more diverse, homogenous. It kind of started out with African American was a big part of popular music, and then in the late 90s, early 2000s, we started to get a lot more Latino influence, and nowadays you're actually hearing a lot more Caribbean influence happening in pop music. Caribbean,
lots of K-pop. That's gotten really big.
K-pop, Asian, kind of African. A lot of Caribbean and African music is starting. That style is starting to creep a lot more in pop music. I mean, when I was a kid, the thought of a pop song being completely in Spanish was unheard of. Or it's very novelty. Nowadays, you're way more likely to encounter a song in a different language on the pop charts. I'm not really as aware of it because I don't really keep up with pop music quite as much as I used to. But that I always thought was really interesting. So there is something to be said for pop music needing to have equal consideration. If not more consideration, because it is, it's popular music. It's objectively what the world enjoys. They don't.
It's a representation of what people want.
It's a representation of people want. Not everybody fucking wants Something Anything by Todd Rundgren over and over. That's a very special thing that Patrick S. Barry really likes, and that's great. Whatever. Fuck me.
Hey, no one's attacking you.
No,
There's pop music and there's Pat music.
All that being said, let's not go crazy. Let's, you said, let's not look at a piece of music or a single that comes out and it's the most absolute vacuous, ridiculous piece of garbage ever, and a critic has to say, wow, it is just so amazing how vacuous that is, that it must be brilliant.
This album deserves a retrospective.
It is clearly that they did this for it. This was purposeful, and you know, it's not that they were just like fucking delusional idiots within the context of their time. Clearly, this was for a purpose. Blah 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 blah. And fucking Stephen Thomas Erlewine, who is like, first of all, of course, like the son of the guy who founded allmusic.com, but he's done a lot of...
And he's our best frenemy.
He's our best frenemy. He's done a lot of great reviews for that website, and he's... Mm-hmm. It's just, like, crazy to see, like, the reviews that he's done for, like, legitimately important, fantastically well put together records that he would rate lower than Paris Hilton's debut album. Like,
that's why I say it's suspect.
He rate, like, I don't know, Stone Temple Pilots Tiny Music album that came out in like mid-90s. I know that's not like for everyone, but it's a great record. He gave it 3 stars. And then like there's at least like 2 or 3 like hit singles that are still being played to this day off of that record. This album by Paris Hilton is like completely unrememberable, and he gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars, and that pisses me off. And that's a problem. That's like where you have to say, like, as a music critic, you got to reel it back a bit and just, like, you don't need to be, you don't need
have
to,
a little more self-awareness.
Like, you don't need to be a complete dick. You don't need to be like, Paris Hilton, she doesn't know anything about music. She's just a silly girl. But, like, at the same time, you know, be like, yeah, she's a fucking silly socialite dipshit. Like, yeah, of course this is a little ridiculous. I would, you know, dock a star off easily for that alone.
But review the music, not the person.
No, fuck that. No,
like, I feel like the basic sort of thing to like take away from our little rants here is that poptimism definitely had its place. Like, you know, it was a reaction to rockism, and, you know, it did that job very well, but now it's become just sort of wrapped up in the same sort of self-importance and all that sort of stuff that rockism had. And yeah, it's just basically eating itself. Yeah. And that's how we end up with vapid, dumb articles like the Paper Mag article.
Anyway, what?
Track number 11.
I got Cat. Hold on. Okay.
I like Cat. Track number 11. Final track off the record. Do You Think I'm Sexy?
The cover.
Whoa.
You want my body and you think I'm sexy. Come on, sugar, let me know. If you really need me, just reach out and touch me. Come on, honey, tell me so. Tell me so, babe.
This seems ridiculously on the nose.
I have strong feelings.
Sure, why not? Why not close out a perpetually horny record like this with just a cover of the creepiest, stickiest song by one of the horniest classic rock artists of all time?
Can I say how much I fucking hate Rod Stewart?
Oh.
Okay. Patrick just
do.
had his soapbox. This is my soapbox moment. I despise this person. He is so worshipped by some people. He's like it's like U2. He has this like fan base that is so unflinchingly loyal. I just like don't understand it. Rod Stewart fucking sucks.
He does have a weirdly loyal fan base for someone who's so painfully average.
Yeah, it's weird.
Okay, how do I put this in a consumable way? I have worked retail most of my life, so I spend most of my time listening to, like, popular music that is unoffensive, and everyone can agree that it's fine to shop to, so it's stuff that I listen to all the time. And there's a lot of Rod Stewart in there, and in the past couple of years Yes. In the past couple of years, I have been paying very close attention to Rod Stewart, and he hates women. and he is constantly demonizing women in his lyrics.
Yeah.
Do You Think I'm Sexy is like the only one, and I still fucking hate this song. But his music is garbage. Maggie May, fine. I like that song.
That's one of the precious few
Other
that I
than
really
that-
like. But I don't think he needs to be memorialized as much as he is.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, Rod Stewart's music has never really extended beyond just like, just kind of okay for me, though I have gotten super sick of hearing certain Rod Stewart songs because they were played ad nauseum when I worked at a classic rock radio station for a brief jaunt. For me, like, his worst crime is that he turned two incredibly good, incredibly profound Tom Waits songs into just this sticky, pop
that's
ballady,
right.
garbagey mess.
Forgot he did
I
that.
totally forgot about that.
And I can never forgive him for that. He ruined
No.
Downtown Train and Tom Trabbert's Blues.
I just don't think that Tom Waits should be
Like-
touched.
Tom Trabbert's Blues especially is like one of the saddest songs that Tom Waits, an already incredibly sad songwriter, has ever written, and he just basically turned it into fucking Josh Groban music.
Because he's Rod Stewart, and everyone forgives him of everything because they fucking love him. I hate him. I hate him so much. I'm very sorry. My blood pressure is up.
Fuck Rod Stewart.
I wrote, this is... Everything else
look at
had
all the
just
underlines.
2 lines. This is my "Do you think I'm sexy" notes, because I hate him that much. And this is supposed to be
boy.
about Paris Hilton, but I went off the rails.
No, I'm for it. Oh boy. Maybe it's because there was more music to be written and arranged on this song just because it was a Rod Stewart song previously and not something Scott Storch could just loop over a tuneless bass kick for 4 minutes. But I feel like the production on this cover is actually pretty decent. But like so many other facets of this album, it's just being dragged down by Hilton herself. Like, as pervy and sticky and disgusting as Rod Stewart was, he was in and of it, like at his root, he was a belter. And Hilton is just pulling the tinny coo out again, and it's like it's not enough to make it a bad track necessarily. It just kind of narrows it all out to an
Yeah,
for
and
me.
musically they took no creative liberties whatsoever. It was still
Not
just
really,
a disco
no.
song. It wasn't like there was nothing interesting or unique about it. It was literally just a note-for-note cover.
It sounded like Paris Hilton karaoke. And that was my impression
Yeah,
the very first time I
perfect.
heard it, too. Which was, I think I remember this being the first track that I heard off this album, because I was like, oh, I know this song. This is fucking Rod Stewart. The person who showed it to me did not know that it was Rod Stewart originally, but...
Oh, no. Did they think it was a Paris Hilton original?
I'm not going to insinuate that, but for the purposes of the entertainment value on this show, sure.
I'm not going to insinuate that, but yes, I am.
oh boy. I'm sure we want to stop talking about this album as quickly as possible, but I'd be remiss if I didn't close out my notes on this record with a crazy little story that occurred in connection to this album's release.
Yes.
And of course, as with all pop culturally relevant stories that happened during the aughts, it involved Banksy.
Oh, no.
During the first week of Paris's release, Banksy managed to replace 500 copies of her record with doctored alternative versions produced by him and producer Danger Mouse. The songs were replaced with stark and fuzzy breakbeat tracks of Danger Mouse's creation that heavily sampled Paris Hilton's own statements in the media, with titles like "Why Am I Famous?", "What Have I Done?" and "What Am I For?", while the booklet artwork was replaced with various collages by Banksy with cryptic captions that lambasted celebrity culture like 90% of success is just showing up, and every CD you buy puts me further out of your league.
I love Banksy so much.
Perhaps the most nefarious part of this stunt was Banksy left the original UPC on the record, so people wouldn't even be aware that they were buying a satirical version of the record until they got it home and opened it up.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so beautiful.
That's what makes Banksy Banksy.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
That is so beautiful.
And now we're done with the album. So I say we get to our final thoughts.
Okay.
All right, Pat, do you consider this a worst of all time record?
Do I consider this a worst of all time record? That's a pretty tough question. I'm having a really tough time knowing how to answer that because on the surface, the music is actually perfectly fine, and it's actually better produced than Kevin Federline's album. And I think musically, I actually prefer the songs to Chris Cornell's Scream. There's actually like some more interesting writing, and somehow
holy shit,
and somehow the lyrics are or the vocals are like less obtrusive to me. All that being said, that doesn't mean shit because it's fucking Paris Hilton, and it's someone who had the money to blow on something like just such a magnificently foolish, overblown production, and the fact that I kind of liked some of those, that like I found myself like not liking the songs, but it was just like listenable, pissed me off. I think that was manipulative, and I don't like that. So yes, this is like a really bad thing to exist. I don't think it's a good thing. I don't think it's good.
Same question to you, Aimee. Do you consider this a worst of all time album?
I think that Patrick said largely what I want to get at is like, as a record, like sonically, is it the worst? No, absolutely not. Like, nothing about it, like, musically offended me. It was listenable. I was, moving around a little bit. I didn't absolutely hate it, but it's not a piece of art. It's a product. There's absolutely no feeling behind it, and music is one of the most important branches of creation and art, and it was hollow and cold and gross. And so, musically, no, it is not the worst album ever, but it is the worst, one of the worst things to exist.
As for me, oh boy, this album is pretty bad, and I might even say it's not even necessarily because of Hilton. Like, I feel like these songs are just so largely bland and forgettable that this would have been a bad record even if the face attached to it was someone who actually could sing. I can't go so far as to say it's worst of all time necessarily, because I don't think the songs are objectively terrible enough to qualify except for maybe a few, but at the same time there's so few bright spots you can't really give it that either. Like, it's weird. I feel like calling it a worst of all time album is kind of more of a castigation of Hilton herself and her public persona than the album she put out, because ultimately this album is kind of exactly one should expect from it. I mean, it's a pop record produced and written by ringers with long-standing histories in mainstream mega-selling, yet completely identity-free pop music. And it's been given off to a celebutante with no prior history of musical talent at the time for really no reason other than its own sake. Like, there was no grand message behind the record. There was no deep-seated poetry that needed to come out. It was literally just Paris Hilton wants to make a record, so we're going to find a way to make that work, even if it means stripping all semblances of humanity from it.
And she hasn't done one ever since either. This is the only one she's done.
And that, of course, doesn't make it good. But to call it a worst of all time record implies that you are expecting something bigger from it, which you absolutely should not. Just as assigning any sort of deeper meaning to this album is just a huge fool's errand. Like, she has an album here of interchangeable aughts pop songs. They're not more ironic just because she herself is a celebrity famous for being rich and not having any prior musicianship. It's just a vapid pop record, and that's it.
Yeah.
It just is.
It is.
Yeah.
I think, the reviews of people, like, giving it, just the sort of, like, flowery, gushing reviews of it that were like, oh, this is so much better than we expected from, like, such a polarizing figure. Again, like, I feel like they should have fucking relaxed a bit. Like, Stephen Thomas Erlewine, if I were in his shoes, I would have maybe given this if I were having a good day, I would give this a 3 out of 5. Like, that's that's a paycheck rating. That's like, okay, we're starting off the bat with 2 out of 5 stars because it's fucking Paris Hilton. Oh, actually, this isn't like a complete fucking train wreck like Angelic to the Core by Corey Feldman. like
who has no money.
Who has no money and like mixed everything at home, asterisk. But like there was money put into it, and like so it's and like things were mixed tastefully enough that like 3 is like that's fine. 4 out of 5, like that's absurd. That's like we need to like reevaluate
Suspect.
that. We
Well, I mean, this album is kind of an interesting case in that of reviewers, the people who like, you know, the most extreme sides of both coins were just both completely wrong, I feel like. Because all the people that went super duper negative from the beginning, like, I feel like they were wrong because they were mostly reviewing Paris Hilton's public persona, not the record herself. And the people who went super positive are also wrong because this album is just so clearly boring.
right.
All right. As hard as it's going to be, Patrick, what is your favorite, best, or least bad track on this album?
I'm really embarrassed to admit this, but I'm gonna go with Jealousy. It's so stupid. It's such a fucking dumb song, and it's not even the least offensive song because once she starts singing it takes you out of it, and it's clearly a very, very, very silly person singing over it. But something about the production of it, and even just like some of the chords being used were just like so weird and not expected, and yeah, there was just a certain vulnerability to it that was kind of weirdly alluring to me, to the extent that I probably with other lyrics it would be better, but I could even picture doing everything as is with a different vocalist. This song could be saved
Without the spoken word.
But that's just a given.
Same question for you, Amy. Best or least bad track?
So you don't have to be embarrassed, Patrick, because I was between Jealousy and Stars Are Blind. The only reason that Stars Are Blind won was because the spoken word in Jealousy just like ruined everything for me. And honestly, like, I mean, you know, I'm not the biggest pop fan. I've come around on a lot more pop as I get older and less elitist. But I can picture myself singing Stars Are Blind while I'm driving around. It's honestly not the worst song. And if you think about it as a Gwen Stefani song, it's tolerable.
Right.
I am also going to go with Stars Are Blind because that one just stuck out the most to me out of all the tracks and really felt like they were actually going to try something a little bit different. And I feel like the majority of that can be attributed, you know, to the producer. Like, I mean, just looking at all the stuff he did with Lady Gaga, that guy Fernando Garibay really does seem like he has a much more creative streak than, say, Scott Storch or Dr. fucking Luke.
Yeah.
What would you say is the worst track, Patrick?
The worst track? That's a good question. And that's actually kind of a tough question because no, it's
should I come back to you?
No, it's not. Never mind. It's not a tough question at all. It's Fighting Over Me. That song was really dumb, and the vocals probably stuck out the most. The big problem here is, there's a lot of just bland pop happening, and I think on that track you actually got a glimpse into how fucking foolish this all is, and you got a glimpse into just how vacuous this woman is. And it probably, the vacuousness of the whole thing just stuck out to me the most on that track.
Same question for you, Amy. Worst track?
Yeah, it's going to be Fighting Over Me for me as well. She was hardly on the song, which honestly I was grateful for.
Yeah.
I think she just did the chorus. I'm not sure if she had any other lyrics other than the chorus. I think
She had like a bridge, I think.
A bridge. It was mostly driven by the Fat Joe and Jadakiss features, which were fine, but it's not a Fat Joe or Jadakiss record.
Yeah.
The lyrics that she did sing were just ridiculously stupid, like just almost satirical. Like for a brief moment, I thought, was she trolling with this record because it's that shallow, like more shallow than I thought she was actually capable of.
It's pretty vacuous and shallow. But this record also came out nearly 15 years ago, which is kind of insane to think about. So yeah, there's a little bit of that, like, you know, this hasn't aged well because it's 15 years old. So it probably feels like, a little cringier than we expected.
Yeah. As for me, all three of us are in the hand-holding club because I am also picking Fightin' Over Me as my least favorite track for pretty much all the reasons you guys gave. But the chiefest for me is that it's just the most, like, I hate the production on it. It's just the most repellent, like, aughts, pop, rap, Scott Storch Timbaland kind of sounding track that, like, that was my first real sort of, like, the aughts were when I first really started exploring music for myself, and that was, like, a lot of that kind of music was my first exposure to hip-hop music. And that got me thinking, like, oh, this is all hip-hop music. And it made me hate hip-hop and rap music for the longest time.
We must be the same age, Lilz, because I feel like our timelines are the same.
Yeah, I'm 32.
I'm 33. There we go.
But yeah, like, I hate that it made me do that because obviously I've grown and have discovered so much more sumptuous and exciting things in hip-hop and rap music. A lot fucking better than this thing. And also, it was just a really dumb and annoying song.
It was real bad.
We made it, though.
Sure did.
Thank you very much for being on the program once again,
Aimee. What was our MVP moment?
Oh, thank you.
MVP moment.
Oh, MVP moments.
No. This podcast doesn't do that,
okay.
Patrick. We're done talking about Paris.
Okay, we're done.
This is... you almost made it a crossover.
I smell a crossover. Oh, okay. No, we should wrap this up. That's enough. We've talked enough Paris Hilton for way too long. Aimee, seriously, thank you so much. It's always such a pleasure.
I will be on any time, but I have a caveat.
Oh, yeah?
Please don't make me do another Socialite record.
Okay. We'll make you do...
Please. I gotta look out for me.
We'll make you do a real musician next time. Like, do real only albums by real music folks.
Where are you going with this?
I don't know.
Because at first, I was going to offer to be the resident Socialite reviewer. And then I Googled what other Socialites had made records. And I don't think I can do, like, a Brooke Hogan. I can't...
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
I can't do one of two Lindsay Lohan albums. I can't.
Oh,
I don't have that in me, and I need to create realistic boundaries for myself.
We'll do at least one or two actual musician albums with you before we do the Brooke Hogan.
Oh, I will do another Socialite record. Just give me some buffer.
Just don't make that your thing.
Yeah, that's not my thing. I'm not the Socialite correspondent.
Yeah. Have you got anything you want to plug as long as we're winding things down?
Sure. Nothing personal, but wear a fucking mask. Wash your hands. Arrest Breonna Taylor's murderers.
Yeah.
And just treat people with respect.
Good plugs.
I like those.
Thanks.
You want to plug something, Pat?
Yeah, we're wrapping up season 3 of Jukebox Zeroes. That's exciting.
Yeah, we've only got one more episode after this
That's
one.
very true. Obyak, Old Men Yell at Cloud is still, I don't think we even take breaks. We're
Just plugging away.
Just chug-a-lugging away, doing that thing. Check out the must-watch movies episode, the film podcast I do with Christopher. Check out the episode that I do with Aimee from last month on Duck Soup.
That was a good one.
That was a lot of fun. That was a big hoot. So check that out. And then actually later this month, there will be one on Jaws because apparently I'm like the only person who has never seen Jaws.
I've never seen Jaws.
Oh, what the fuck? Well, we can't have you on 2 in a row.
I literally hadn't seen it until like a couple years ago.
Yeah, I was like, I was counting. I was like, I bet Lilz hasn't seen it, but then of course you had seen it, and you said you had a wonderful time.
Yeah, and I haven't watched a lot of movies either. Like I'm in the same boat as you.
Exactly. We got to have you on to do. We're having. I think you do the Gremlins double feature.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
That'll be fun.
You never seen Gremlins?
I haven't seen Gremlins
Nope.
all the way.
Neither of you. You are in for such a
I'm so
treat.
excited. But yeah, that's about it. I don't know. I got some new music coming out, but who gives a shit?
Before you guys wrap up, can I say one more thing?
Sure.
I don't know if it's like abundantly obvious to people who are listening, but Lilz, the amount of work you put into this show is incredible.
Well, thank
Like,
you.
It's very true.
Seriously.
Yes.
I'm following along with you on the screen, and your writing is insane, and your organization is incredible, and this show is wonderful, and the work that you do is truly astounding. So
I don't
job.
even know why I'm here
Thank you.
anymore. Lilz does all the work. I'm just here to waste time.
I guess I'll plug, go check out the other Zero Science podcasts like Old Men Yell at Cloud, Must See Movies. Also go check out Nickelback in Clamshell Case Files, Discography Deep Dive. Like I just finished my arc on Sparks last month. And go check out my new podcast with Scott Kurland, Hell is a Musical, where Scott tries to get me to enjoy movie musicals, and it doesn't always work. We've got one episode up, but we're going to have more soon. It's going to be a monthly affair. But if you want to check that out, we did our first episode on Sing Street, which was incredibly delightful and probably the best thing that we'll end up watching.
That's great.
you don't know. You're going to
That's
be
true, I
pleasantly
don't.
surprised.
That's true, I don't. Oh, boy. Our theme song is Sunny Day by the band Froggy and the Friendship. You can check them out at froggyandthefriendship.bandcamp.com. If you have an album you'd like to suggest for us to review or would just like to leave us some feedback or a comment, email us at jukeboxzeroespodcast@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook at facebook.com/jukeboxzeroespodcast or on Twitter at twitter.com/jukeboxzeroes. You can find us, rate us, review us, and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. Or check out our archives on the Zero Science main page. Jukebox Zeroes is a production of the Zero Science Network. For more great podcasts, go check out zero-science.com. God damn it! And that about does it for this episode of Jukebox Zeroes. I'm Lilz.
And I'm Patrick.
And remember...
Extra, extra! Read all about it! 3 Local Idiots Fun Podcast!
Hey, all you out there in podcast land. Are you bored? Maybe you're sitting in traffic? Or maybe you're toiling away behind your desk at that dead-end job you just can't fucking stand anymore. Have I got a solution for you? Why not mosey on over to that search bar at the top of your favorite podcast app? Don't worry, I'll wait. Type in Old Men Yell at Cloud, a podcast where three unqualified musicians rifle through their vinyl collections and discuss their unwarranted opinions for everyone to enjoy or not enjoy. Check it out on the Zero Science Podcast Network.